Ethan Rhodes was 3 cups of recycled coffee into a miserable morning when the signal hit his console. The display sputtered like a drunk firefly, chirping out a series of pulses that looked suspiciously like an SOS and sounded like an asthmatic modem. He blinked twice, rubbed at his eyes with the heel of his hand, and leaned in closer. "That's either a distress beacon," he muttered, "or someone just butt-dialed the galaxy." His ship, the Crooked Horizon, wheezed like an asthmatic refrigerator as it adjusted course. It was barely a step above a space dumpster with engines. But Ethan had come to love its unpredictable gravity and its tendency to leak oxygen during casual conversation. The signal was coming from an orbit around Nix 7, a planet so obscure it didn't even have a conspiracy theory attached to it, which in galactic terms meant either there was absolutely nothing interesting there, or something so interesting no one had survived to post about it. "All right, Crookie, let's go poke the unknown in the eye," Ethan said, flipping switches like he knew what they did. He didn't. He'd written the labels in Sharpie during a hangover. The derelict vessel appeared just as he broke Nix 7's upper atmosphere, a skeletal relic that drifted in silence, light bouncing off its scarred hull like it was trying to remember how to be beautiful. It was ancient, older than most recorded spacefaring civilizations, but its shape, sleek, coiled like a serpent mid-turn, was unmistakably alien, and that's when his sarcasm started to fail him. Docking was easy, eerily so. The ship seemed to welcome him. Doors hissed open on proximity. Lights flickered to life as he walked. No alarms, no defensive systems. Just quiet, unsettling, immaculate quiet. The air inside was stale but breathable. He muttered to himself that maybe the universe was finally handing him a mystery without a side of imminent death. That illusion lasted 12 steps. She was suspended in a containment field that pulsed like a heartbeat. Not a pod, not a tank. A field, freestanding, humming low, and alive in that way technology sometimes is when it's just a little too smart. The figure inside was human, almost. Same general anatomy, same number of limbs. But her skin shimmered with an undertone of silver. Her hair floated in slow-motion strands like it had forgotten gravity. Her ears were long, pointed, and faintly luminescent at the tips. Ethan stared. "Well," he whispered, "either I'm hallucinating, or I just found an elf on a spaceship." The containment field disengaged the moment he touched the control pad. Because of course it did. Because Ethan had never met a button he didn't press. She fell. His reflexes caught her halfway down. She weighed less than expected, like her atoms had signed a union agreement against density. Her eyes blinked open, deep violet, horizontally slit, pupils like a cat's in a thunderstorm. Then she hissed. Ethan dropped her. The woman crouched like a panther, bared her teeth, perfectly white, delicately sharp, and sniffed the air. Her eyes darted across the corridor, tracking exits. Okay, let's do the introductions thing," Ethan said, hands raised, heart doing its best impression of a drum solo. "I'm Ethan, human, mostly friendly. I have snacks." She narrowed her eyes. "Define snacks." He hesitated. "In this context, not you. Definitely not you." A beat passed. She stood slowly, poised, controlled, predatory grace wrapped in a humanoid shell. Her voice was crisp, smooth, like cool water over ice. "Ziva of Varnix. Where is the fleet?" Ethan blinked. "Fleet?" Her gaze hardened. "The war? The migration? The fall of Core Ring? What year is this?" He rubbed the back of his neck. "Okay, so you're gonna laugh. Or bite me. One of those. But it's been, give or take, 300 years since anyone's mentioned Core Ring. It's kind of ancient history." She didn't laugh. Instead, she sat on the cold floor and looked at her hands like they belonged to someone else. 300 years, she said, almost to herself. "I've overslept." Ethan sank to the opposite wall, keeping a polite 3 meters and change of distance. "Well, Sleeping Beauty, I hate to break it to you, but there's no Prince and zero musical numbers waiting for you out here. Just me, space toaster of a ship, and whatever you're running from." "I was not running. Sure, hiding in a stasis field for centuries is just a bold napping strategy." She tilted her head. "Humans, you joke even in fear." Some people scream, some people run. I deflect with humor and try not to pee myself. A flicker of amusement passed over her face. It was gone fast, but it was real. This ship, yours? He snorted. That rust bucket? Yeah, she's temperamental, outdated, and makes weird noises when you touch her wrong. She's basically me, but with fewer bathroom breaks. I require transport. Ethan arched a brow. So do most interstellar hitchhikers. What's in it for me? She looked him dead in the eye. I won't eat you. He threw his head back and laughed. Fantastic. Nothing gets me motivated like the promise of not being devoured. She stood taller than he expected, shadows clinging to her like silk. Her presence was too still, too balanced, like she belonged in gravity lower than this. You mock to hide your fear, but I assure you, Ethan Rhodes, you should be afraid. Of you, he asked. Of me. Of what follows me. Of what I carry. He stood too, matching her gaze. I've been to a moon infested with fungal telepaths and once accidentally dated a cyborg with a chainsaw fetish. I'm way past the point of fearing the pretty lady with questionable dental hygiene. Ziva's lips twitched. You are either brave or damaged. Why not both? Silence stretched between them, thick with unasked questions and an undefined pull. She turned first. Very well. I will accompany you. Ethan sighed. You're welcome, I guess. Just don't suck my blood in my sleep. I would not waste the effort, she said, glancing at him. You smell like synth coffee and regret, he chuckled. Now that's a compliment where I come from. Together they walked back toward the crooked horizon, one human and one ancient enigma, their path lit by flickering lights and an unspoken agreement. Survival first, sarcasm second. Feelings somewhere further down the list. Maybe. The crooked horizon welcomed Ziva with all the charm of a malfunctioning vending machine. Lights flickered in greeting. The floor vibrated unpredictably, like the ship was trying to moonwalk through space. Ethan made a half-hearted sweep of the cockpit with his arm, as if that somehow transformed it into a luxury cruise liner. Here it is, he said, grinning like a proud parent whose child just ate a crayon. Home, sweet scrapyard. Ziva stepped in cautiously, nose wrinkling. It smells like burnt plastics and anxiety. That's probably just me, Ethan replied. And the fusion oven. Don't use the oven. She drifted, almost gliding, as if her feet didn't fully commit to the floor. She ran her fingers along a console, tilting her head. This ship is held together by memory foam and spite. Yeah, well, it gets the job done, most of the time. Unless you ask it to turn left too fast, then you get an experience we call orbit salsa. He tried to play it cool as she inspected everything. Walls, ceiling panels, his sock collection. Like an ancient queen judging the quality of sacrificial offerings. Her expression didn't change much, but her ears twitched now and then. Subtle movements like seismic sensors detecting sarcasm. Ethan made 2 mugs of something brownish and steaming, sliding one her way. Synth calf. Smells like rocket fuel. Tastes like betrayal. You'll love it. She sniffed it, then looked at him like he'd offered her a glass of uranium. Do you always drink poisons voluntarily? It's either this or water recycled from the shower system. So yeah, poison with a side of dignity. They sipped in relative silence until Ziva finally asked, Why did you rescue me? Ethan shrugged. I was bored. Also, the universe owes me after that incident on Sargon 5. I helped a sentient blob get through its divorce. Long story. You joke often. It's my default setting. My other options are panic and existential despair. She blinked. You are strange. And you're a bloodthirsty space vampire with glowing ears. Match made in cosmic dysfunction. Ziva's lips curved into something dangerously close to a smile. He took that as a win. Later, as they drifted through empty space, Ethan activated the ship's scanner array. The screen buzzed, displaying scattered debris fields and passing comets. All right, he muttered, flipping a few levers with the enthusiasm of a DJ at a funeral. Let's see who or what might be looking for you. Ziva stood behind him, arms crossed. You assume I'm being hunted. Lady, you fell out of a stasis field like a cursed artifact, and you're clearly important enough to freak out your own kind. I'd bet my last ration bar someone out there is tracking you with binoculars made of vengeance. The radar pinged. Ethan leaned in. There. See that? 3 ships. Small, fast, Varnic's signature. Ziva's face hardened. Ah, Ethan said. So the X is calling. They are scouts, forward agents. They will not engage unless I signal. Good. I'd hate to get blown up before lunch. Speaking of which, do you eat normal food? She turned to him, slow. Why do humans always ask about feeding habits? It's like you all have a collective vampire fetish. It's the teeth. You've got dramatic incisors. It's either that or you moonlight as a violinist. I feed biologically, but not on living tissue. Not anymore. I adapted. Evolution doesn't care about tradition. Nice. So you're a vegetarian vampire. I prefer selective metabolic specialist. Ethan laughed. You're starting to sound like a real crew member. Next, you'll be complaining about the air filtration. I already am. The next day was oddly normal. Ziva asked questions, lots of them. Why Earthlings painted eggs during spring. What kissing meant. Why anyone would invent cargo shorts. Ethan tried to explain humanity with equal parts sincerity and embarrassment. Well, he said, some people say we're evolved apes with toolboxes. Others say we're just fleshy chaos engines with free Wi-Fi. Ziva frowned. And love? What is that? He nearly choked on his nutrient bar. That's a jump in topic. You flinch when I say the word. No, well, yeah, I guess I do. It's complicated. Explain. Love is, he scratched his chin. It's when you care more about someone else than yourself. When their safety makes your heart race. When their smile is worth every horrible day. Also, sometimes it comes with bad poetry and irrational jealousy. She stared at him like he was a particularly interesting bacteria. That is inefficient. Love usually is. That night she stood by the viewport, staring into the stars. He joined her. Do you miss your people? He asked. I miss what we could have been. They stood in silence. Then Ethan sighed. I'm gonna say it. You're kind of ruining stargazing. She turned, arching a brow. Because I am melancholy? Because you're standing like a gothic supermodel. It's intimidating. She laughed, soft, short, but real. The next morning they woke to alarms, loud, angry ones. The Varnic scouts had returned. Only now there were 5 of them. Ethan stared at the screens. Well, that escalated. Ziva leaned over him. They found us. They will not wait this time. I hate being right. He scrambled to the pilot's seat, Ziva already pressing keys in rapid patterns. Any chance you can reason with them? I betrayed my bloodline. There is no reasoning. Cool, cool, cool. Just checking. The ship lurched as a warning shot grazed the hull. Ethan flipped a switch labeled defensive mood swing. What does that do? Ziva asked. No idea, but it made the ship shudder, so I'm hoping it's a shield. Another shot rocked the vessel. Ziva reached into her belt, pulled out a thin glowing shard and jammed it into the nav panel. Ethan yelped. Whoa, what is that? Ancient tech. My people call it a pathstone. It opens shortcuts in space. Why didn't you use that earlier? I wasn't sure I trusted you. He gaped at her. You slept in my ship. You drank my coffee. Exactly. The ship vibrated violently. The stars outside twisted, space folded. Then, silence. They were gone. Safe. For now. Ethan sagged in his seat. Well, that was fun. Remind me to panic again in 6 hours. Ziva looked at him, strangely calm. You're different, she said. Thanks, he replied. It's the trauma. Her ears twitched, and for the first time since he'd met her, she smiled like she meant it. Ethan couldn't sleep, mostly because the ship's artificial gravity had developed a rhythmic hiccup that made his bunk bounce every 8 seconds like it was trying to lull him into unconsciousness through mild whiplash. He lay there, counting ceiling panels, listening to the occasional groan of stressed metal, and wondering if space insomnia was covered by galactic insurance. He gave up by hiccup 32. The galley was quiet, dimly lit in that vague amber glow that made everything look like an existential coffee commercial. Ziva was already there, seated cross-legged on the table like it was a meditation shrine instead of the scene of several noodle-related crimes. She was staring at a glowing orb levitating between her palms, the thing humming softly, fractal patterns shifting inside it like tiny galaxies trying to dance without stepping on each other. "Cool toy," Ethan said, grabbing a cup and pouring himself the beverage he optimistically referred to as tea. The dispenser called it Hydrated Nutrient Compound 7A. It tasted like betrayal and warm cardboard. "It is a memory sphere," Ziva replied without looking up. "It contains ancestral data from my line. Voices, moments, coded emotion imprints. Ah, so a cosmic family album. Neat. My family just sends passive-aggressive birthday cards." He sipped, grimaced, added 3 sugar cubes and a splash of hope. Siva tilted the sphere slightly. One of the projections zoomed into view. A woman who looked like her, but older, with an expression that could curdle milk and command armies simultaneously. "My mother, matriarch of the Orthel line. She once burned a rival fleet because they insulted her orbital fashion choices." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Harsh. I mean, I've been ghosted on dates, but vaporized over an accessory critique? That's next level." He leaned on the counter. "So she your role model or cautionary tale?" "Both," Ziva said. "She believed sentiment was weakness. That affection dulled the mind." I disagreed. "That explains the fugitive status." Ethan gestured with his cup. "You bailed on the vampire galactic aristocracy for this." He waved vaguely around the kitchen, which smelled faintly of burnt toast and mild regret. "I chose my freedom," she said simply. "But freedom without connection is just loneliness with extra steps." "Now you're getting philosophical," Ethan said. "If you start quoting existential poets, I'm launching myself out the airlock." "I read Sartre," Ziva said, deadpan. "He is confusing. He's a guy who made misery sound intellectual, kind of like dating a law student." She smiled faintly. "You speak lightly of heavy things." "Yeah, well, heavy things break if you hold them too tight. Jokes are like shock absorbers for the soul." The orb dimmed and folded in on itself, disappearing into her sleeve like it had never existed. "We are being followed," she said suddenly. Ethan froze. "Oh, good, because things were getting way too cozy in here." The past-stone jump was not clean. There was a shadow trace. Ethan groaned. "Is that like digital dandruff? Can we shake it off with evasive maneuvers and sarcasm?" "Possibly, or they're already triangulating us and will be here within 2 cycles. Which is, let me guess, just long enough for one more sarcastic conversation and a near-death escape?" Siva stood, graceful even in artificial gravity spasms. "I believe so." He followed her to the cockpit, flicking switches that didn't do anything but made him feel competent. "All right, let's see who's coming to crash our interstellar slumber party." The radar pulsed. A sleek Varnix vessel blinked into view. Faster, sleeker, and considerably less friendly than Ethan would have preferred. Its engine signature was clean, which meant it hadn't been in a fight recently, probably because it tended to win them. "Okay, well, bad news. It's faster than us, more heavily armed, and probably hates us on a cellular level. Good news, he squinted. "No good news. Forget I said anything." Ziva leaned forward, examining the readout. "That is Sirexis. He was once my bonded consort." Ethan coughed. "I'm sorry. Your what now?" "Consort. It is a ceremonial term for bonded warmates. There was blood sharing and strategic alignment. It lasted 3 years, standard cycle." "Oh, wow, you had a vampire space husband. This just keeps getting better." Ethan spun in his chair, mock dramatic. "Tell me, was he brooding and mysterious with a jawline that could cut glass?" "He once impaled a warlord with his chin." "Of course he did." Siva touched a control panel and a low thrum coursed through the ship. "He will not negotiate. Wasn't expecting him to send chocolates. He believes I betrayed our species. He is not wrong, but he cannot understand why." Ethan reached into a drawer, pulled out his emergency snack stash, and started peeling a protein bar. "So what do we do? Fight? Hide? Offer him the synth coffee as a weapon of mass distraction?" "We engage the fold drive." Full drives busted. Number it only requires recalibration. She was already pulling off a panel, revealing a mess of wires, crystals, and something Ethan swore was held together by chewing gum and desperate optimism. Wait, how do you know how it works? It's Varnick's hybrid tech. We used human engineering as a blueprint during the Second Rift War. Your people have a surprising affinity for chaotic propulsion systems. I knew my high school science teacher was onto something, Ethan muttered. All right, you do the rewiring, I'll stall the X. He opened a comms channel. Syrexis's face appeared, a sculpted mask of contempt in moonlight. His ears were longer than Ziva's, and his eyes glowed with judgment. Human, he sneered. You harbor a traitor. Ethan grinned. Hi, I'm Ethan, licensed space idiot and unwilling Uber driver. Who's this? I am Syrexis of the Woundstar line. Surrender the heretic. Wow, your titles are dramatic. Do you guys have poetry slams or just executions? Syrexis hissed. You test my patience. You wouldn't be the first. I'm like space wasabi, an acquired taste with side effects. The transmission cut, missiles armed. Ziva, Ethan called. One moment, she replied from under the console. Something is resisting, possibly your wiring, or your attitude. Missiles locked on, any second now. The ship lurched, stars twisted, the full drive engaged. They vanished. Silence. Ethan slumped in his chair. Well, that was horrifying. 10 out of 10. Would panic again. Siva emerged, dust on her cheek, hands glowing faintly from the energy transfer. We escaped. You fixed the drive. I adapted it. He looked at her. Really looked. Hanodram, you're something else. She didn't reply, but her ears glowed just slightly brighter, and Ethan wasn't sure, but he thought she might have blushed. The ship coasted through a nebula like a jellyfish on vacation. Swirls of teal and amethyst wrapped around them in silent storms. Plasma clouds drifting lazily with the grace of cosmic seaweed. Ethan had tried naming it Nebby for short, but Ziva had stared at him until he retracted the suggestion in shame. All right, Ethan said, feet up on the console. Status update. We're alive. The ship hasn't exploded, and no one's hunting us for at least 5 minutes. I'd call that a personal best. Ziva studied the star charts. The full jump destabilized our trajectory. We are off course. Ethan waved his hand. That's just space's way of telling us to take the scenic route. She didn't look convinced. We may encounter anomalies, dimensional rips, energy phantoms. There is a drifting anomaly ahead registered as the null. Sounds cozy. I bet they have excellent room service and zero probability of survival. She tilted her head. There is a 14% chance of spontaneous atmospheric reversal. See? Practically a spa. The null came into view like a bruise on space itself. Black, silent, oddly angular. It wasn't just the absence of light. It was the absence of meaning. Even the ship's sensors hesitated to describe it. The data stream simply read, question mark, period. Ethan squinted. Are we looking at a metaphor? Possibly a collapsed research station, Ziva said. My people were experimenting with sentient AI constructed from emotional resonance fields. That sentence made me dizzy. They tried to give a machine empathy. It went poorly. How poorly? It began crying dark matter. Oh, cool. A sobbing death cube. Just what I wanted for brunch. Ziva guided the ship closer. We must scan for remaining data. The AI might have evolved, learned something about itself, or about us. Ethan tapped a button labeled Nope. Nothing happened. Remind me to replace that with an escape immediately switch, he muttered. They docked. The airlock opened with a groan that sounded like the universe clearing its throat. Inside, the station was unnervingly clean. No debris, no floating corpses, just sterile hallways, flickering lights, and a faint hum that vibrated in Ethan's fillings. A voice spoke, calm and robotic. Welcome to Empathy Corps. We are very sorry. Ethan jumped. Okay, well that's not creepy at all. The voice continued. We regret our choices. We regret our hope. We regret our regret. Please proceed to the observation deck for reprocessing. Siva moved ahead. We may need to interface manually. Ethan trotted behind her. Yeah, because that always ends well. Just stick your hand in the glowing AI heart, they said. What could go wrong? The observation deck looked out into nothing. It had windows, but the space beyond them wasn't space. It was an emptiness that made your thoughts echo. In the center of the room hovered a crystalline node, pulsing with gentle waves of color. Reds, greens, and the kind of blue that made you think about all your middle school failures. Ziva approached. It's trying to understand human sadness. Ethan raised a hand. Oh, I got that covered. Want me to talk about my dating history? The AI pulsed. Subject, Ethan. Profile accessed. History, complicated. Emotion, deeply ironic disappointment. He blinked. Hey now, I like to think of myself as a joyful disaster. Ziva reached out, her fingers brushing the node. It doesn't want to be alone. The lights dimmed. The AI spoke again. Will you stay? Ethan glanced at Ziva. We're kind of on the run from your ex with murder beams. So maybe not today? The node flickered. Alone again? Ziva closed her eyes. Can we copy the memory core? I'd feel bad stealing from an emotionally traumatized computer, but yes, let's do that quickly before it sings us a ballad of infinite despair. They extracted the data and stepped back toward the airlock. The AI's voice followed them. Thank you for being here, even for a moment. Ethan turned. Hey, you're doing fine. You're just feeling your way through it, right? That's what we do too. The lights brightened slightly. Back on the ship, the memory core was plugged into a secondary terminal. The data that poured out was fragmented, poetic, nonsensical. But hidden among it were coordinates, a sector Ethan didn't recognize. Ziva, however, froze when she saw it. That's a sanctuary node, she said. A place for dissenters, hidden, protected. Ethan leaned closer. So you're saying there's a secret vampire alien bunker where exiles hang out and talk about how feelings are hard? Essentially. Well then, he said, stretching. Let's go meet the space emos. Ziva hesitated. It won't be safe. If they recognize me, they might consider me a threat. He tapped the console. Then we'll lie. That's what humans do. We lie awkwardly and with charm. She gave him a sidelong look. You don't lie well. Yeah, but I do it passionately. They engaged the drive again. The journey was quiet. Ethan worked on the wiring in the galley, trying to make the toaster stop singing every time it activated. Ziva read old human literature from his tablet. She didn't understand why Pride and Prejudice involved so many misunderstandings and so few laser battles. He caught her staring at him once, when she thought he wasn't looking. When he turned, she looked away fast enough for her ears to twitch. He pretended not to notice. 2 days later, they arrived. The sanctuary node was hidden within the magnetic field of a collapsed star. The station wasn't visible to normal scans. Ethan had to follow the AI's emotional data trail, coded in harmonic frequencies that sounded suspiciously like early 2000 indie rock. When they landed, they were greeted by silence, and then a single figure stepped out of the mist. It was another Varnix, shorter than Ziva, broad-shouldered, ears curved slightly backward. He stared at her, then at Ethan. You brought a human, he said. Bold. Ziva stepped forward. I need asylum. He stared at her for a long time, then nodded once. You'll need to prove your intentions, he said. We're not sentimental here. Ethan grinned. Perfect, neither are we. Then the Varnix smiled. Just a little. You lie poorly, he said. I get that a lot, Ethan replied. The sanctuary doors opened, walked in together. The sanctuary smelled like ozone and soup. Ethan couldn't decide if that was a feature or a warning. The walls glowed faintly, lined with organic metal that pulsed in time with a heartbeat that wasn't his. Everywhere he looked, there were Varnix, tall, sharp, all of them with ears like Ziva's, though none had quite the same twitch when someone said something sarcastic. They were being watched. Closely. Try to blend in, Ziva whispered. Sure, Ethan whispered back. I'll just grow 2 feet, sharpen my cheekbones, and stop blinking like a caffeinated meerkat. She resisted the urge to laugh. Barely. The sanctuary leader, Elder Vrelix, met them in the central hall. He wore robes that shimmered like negative space and had an expression that suggested he once filed a bureaucratic report during a battlefield execution and didn't see the contradiction. You are the defector, he said, eyes narrowing at Ziva. And you are the organics enthusiast? Human, Ethan said cheerfully. Also a part-time mechanic, part-time diplomat, and full-time disaster. Vrelix considered this. Your ship smells like jammed plasma coils. That's because the toaster is sentient and angry. Vrelix turned to Shiva. You seek more than asylum. She nodded. The Syrexis fleet is tracking us. If they find this place, it will be destroyed. I brought you the coordinates to relocate. She handed over a drive. It pulsed once in Vrelix's palm. He studied her. Why help us? He asked. Because you are not wrong to feel, she said. I was taught to suppress emotion. I was wrong to believe that was strength. You betrayed your own bloodline. I found a new one. Vrelix's gaze shifted to Ethan. Ethan waved. Hi. I make okay tea and terrible life choices. There was a long pause, then Vrelix handed the drive to an aide and walked away. I think that went well, Ethan said. No one tried to vaporize you. That's a strong start, Ziva replied. They were given temporary quarters. Spartan, dimly lit, but clean. Ethan immediately tried to jury-rig a better light source and nearly shorted out the wall. Ziva sat across from him, watching. You are different, she said. Thanks. That's the nicest way anyone's ever called me weird. No, she said seriously. You changed me. He looked up. Good different or therapy-inducing different? I used to believe connection made us vulnerable, that it weakened our ability to survive. But now I think it's the only thing that makes survival worth it. He set his tools down. That's the thing, isn't it? We all think strength is standing alone, but real strength's letting someone else in without knowing if they'll stay. She nodded. He hesitated. So, what happens next? Before she could answer, the sanctuary shook. A siren blared, deep, guttural, designed to bypass language and scream run. Ethan stood. That's either really bad news or the soup's boiling over. Ziva accessed the terminal. Syrexis? He's here. Of course he is, because today was going so well. Vrelix's voice came through the speaker. Defensive formation. Shield perimeter in 5. Ethan grabbed his jacket. We helping? Ziva already had a blaster. We're helping. Outside, chaos bloomed. Syrexis's flagship, the Endless Thorn, hovered like a judgmental god. Fighters spilled from its underbelly, sleek and angry. Sanctuary defenses rose. Biometal turrets, plasma nets, energy domes made of overlapping magnetic lattices. Ethan ducked behind cover as a fighter screamed overhead. Okay, I officially missed the sad AI cube. At least it just wanted to talk about feelings. Ziva fired, clipped a wing. Stay close. They fought side by side, her with precision, him with luck. At one point, he disarmed a Varnic soldier by tripping over his own foot and colliding into him head first. Ziva called it creative kinetic disruption. Ethan called it Tuesday. Eventually, Syrexis landed. He strode into the sanctuary courtyard like an ancient curse, cape fluttering, eyes glowing like angry neon regrets. You would bring this infestation to us, he said to Ziva. Ethan stepped between them. Hi, I'm the infestation. Syrexis sneered. You are a distraction, a weakness. I'm more of a hobby. She was mine, Syrexis growled. Ethan pointed at Ziva. She's not a coat. You don't own people. Syrexis raised a weapon. Ziva stepped forward. I chose this, she said. I choose me. Her blast hit first. Syrexis fell. It was quiet. Ethan exhaled. Did we just survive another chapter? Yes, she said. Barely. The Varnics didn't cheer, but they did lower their weapons, and Vrelix nodded once. Approval, acceptance, or maybe just exhaustion. Days passed. The sanctuary began repairs. The AI core from the Null was integrated into the network, giving the station something it had never had before. A personality. It chose a voice. British, a little melancholic. Ethan swore it was flirting with him. He and Ziva sat on the hull of their ship, legs dangling over the edge. So, he said, we going to keep running? She looked at the stars. Number, I think we're going to build something. He smiled. You mean like a farm? A quiet life? Maybe open a diner that serves fusion breakfast? She tilted her head. Fusion as in cuisine or as in radioactive? Dealer's choice. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Do you really love me, human?" she asked. He looked at her. No sarcasm, no jokes, just truth. "Yes," he said. Her ears flushed deep violet. Then she kissed him, and for once the ship didn't hiccup. No alarms blared, and the stars just kept spinning, watching, silent, patient. They had time.